Good afternoon, everyone. You're now tuned into A Reasonable Conversation on Nusound Radio 92 FM. I'm Prerna, and I'm joined in the studio with Satish and Vivek.
Hi, everyone.
And today we have a very special guest with us in the studio, Param Singh. Hi, Param. How are you?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Just to let everyone know about Param, he's the marketing director at Lawyer Street and also the communications director at City Seeks. He's also an entrepreneur, and many of you might also know him from the show Take Me Out. Before we get into our conversation, if anyone wants to text us, the text number is 07961 387 787 and the studio number is 0208 472 9292, and you can also tweet us at nusound92fm.
And so, just to welcome Paramji to A Reasonable Conversation and to our listeners out there on this Sunday afternoon. Just to remind everyone, this is where a group of people get together to use reason to explore all sorts of interesting and possibly contentious points and subjects. So today, A Reasonable Conversation is turning its attention to religious intolerance, a subject which I think is rearing its head more and more in every space, bearing in mind some of the news coming out from India and also from the States. Religious intolerance, rather than declining, seems to be on the increase. And so we're going to have a look at the reasons behind it and perhaps come to a reasonable conclusion towards the end. So Paramji, thank you so much for visiting us today.
Thanks so much for having us, guys.
So you were recently on Take Me Out, is that right? So
Yeah,
if you want to tell our listeners a bit more about that experience before we get into the nitty-gritty of religious intolerance.
Yeah, sure. So it was about a year ago this time that I was on the show. I'd sort of my brother randomly sent me a link to the Take Me Out application form. I don't know how he got it. He's got a girlfriend, so he sort of sent it me and said, "But you've obviously tried a few things," and he just said, like, "What do you think about this?" And I thought for a minute. I thought it might be an interesting sort of way to. I've always been one of those people that likes to push the boundaries, both of my own comfort zone and. Put it, an opportunity to push other people's perspectives and boundaries as well, and sort of went for my interview. I sort of sent the form back, and literally the next day I got a call because they're just dying. Someone like organisation, the media in general, are just very keen on getting applications from South Asian people, or just people who are bit different. So everyone's keen on sort of promoting difference. But I think our community, maybe the South Asian community, are a little bit maybe shy or
wary, perhaps.
Wary, wary, and maybe people are concerned. What might someone think if they go on something that's a mainstream show, like sort of what family things, and we have all
the
those
Asian
things.
community says a lot of the time what all people say.
You can go. So it was brilliant because the Take Me Out team actually did my normal interview, and they spent about 4 times longer with me to make sure my audition tape was good.
Okay.
Compared to the other candidates.
Okay.
And I would have not got through had they not purposely spent longer with me, and they did that because they really wanted me on the show.
Okay.
So I thought that was really interesting. There's a lot of open-minded people out there.
Yeah, I think we have to be careful because sometimes everybody enjoys difference. But the media has a reputation for exploiting difference as well.
Definitely.
And so sometimes
That's right,
the only people who gain are actually the media.
That's
Everybody
right.
else comes away sort of shaken and devastated. So
That's true, yeah.
Very good. No, it was a courageous thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was. And building up on the media point, there was a bit of, controversial things that were said when you were on the show. I mean, how did you find that? I think someone did make a joke about your turban.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I think did that create a lot of backlash for you?
Yeah.
How was it?
It was interesting. I think I always like to look at things from other people's perspectives, and I think it's because of the inability of looking at something from another person's perspective is partly the reason why we have sort of misunderstandings between different people, different communities, different countries. And I could see that the lady that made the comment about my turban, or like keeping a phone under my turban. I could see the way she said it was like like people make jokes and stuff, and sometimes jokes can be a bit inappropriate. But if there can be jokes that are made like maliciously, or there can be jokes that are made just for jokes,
and quite innocently as well.
Exactly, and quite innocently. And I think it's important to keep in mind that if something is said with innocence, then it should be just taken in good heart.
I think.
And I think our community is not so good at understanding the difference between something that is said in innocence and something that is said with malicious intent. And I think that's partly why there was maybe such a backlash. People are up in arms. There's no need to be up in arms. A child can, little children say lots of little things, the most ridiculous things. And it's not like we get on our top butt every time we say something. It just wouldn't be a very nice world if we did that.
And if you did react to it, it doesn't put you in a very good light yourself. If you're on TV,
right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's the other thing. It just wasn't the forum. It's a mainstream TV show. You're not going to get into a religious debate.
That's right. Yeah, it's interesting because I think because there's so few Asian people in the media, there's an expectation that you go into the media and suddenly you have to, if you're Hindu or you're Sikh or you're Muslim, suddenly you're representing like the entire community, the nation, like that. And it's just I just think it's just a ridiculous expectation because the only people that we can anyone can represent is themselves. And we're all unique individuals, we're not clones. But I think it's definitely an unreasonable expectation from any individual to be representing an entire community. But I think there is this sort of a big sort of a push, that
conform.
That's right. That's the word. I think.
And it's a shame. It's a shame that usually the thing that people want you to conform to, they haven't really understood themselves particularly well.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So
we're about to touch on the religious aspects of stepping out of the boundaries of what most people define the religion to be. But please do. This is just a reminder. Do text in to us. And do call. The numbers once again, if you want to come on air, feel free to do so, 0208 472 9292. And indeed text us, 07961 387 787. And we're having a reasonable conversation on religious intolerance.
So I've got a question, Param.
Yeah.
After you came off the show, the backlash, was it mainly from people within the same religion, the same culture?
Yeah. See, this is really interesting because I got so many positive comments, but basically all of them were from the majority. Yeah, basically all of them were from people who were not Sikhs.
Oh, okay.
And
right.
The only backlash I got was from members of about 50% of the Sikh community. I think the people who supported me from the Sikh community are people who I know like very well, and I've got like quite a big like friends network of like Hindu and Sikh and just general people within London and stuff. And all of them kind of know the kind of person I am, and so they're like, Param, well done, mate. And but there's a lot of people, So that was quite surprising. I found that your own community are the ones to sort of pull you down or say something bad about you.
That's quite an interesting observation, because when we hear the term religious intolerance, automatically we think it's one religion not tolerating another religion.
Yeah.
But it also seems to be manifesting as one religion not tolerating the other members of the same religion, perhaps expanding the boundaries a little bit.
Yeah, it's I've actually been in quite active in the sort of interfaith world.
Okay.
And interfaith is just such an easy place because you already recognise that there's a difference, and so you talk about differences. But I've found that intrafaith, especially in the Sikh community, is virtually like non-existent, because there's this false belief that a Sikh is just one type of belief system.
Sure.
And literally, I mean, I'm of the opinion that every single Sikh I've spoken to, and you ask them, what do you define to be a Sikh or a good Sikh? They'll give you a different answer.
Yeah.
So surely that kind of highlights that it would be reasonable to expect that there is lots of different definitions for what is a Sikh or interpretations of religious belief systems. But I think
this is a human trait, isn't it, to confuse the appearance and the label with the character.
Yeah.
So I would say, traditionally Sikhism and Sikhs, they've always had a particular sort of a character,
right,
rather than how they behave.
Right.
And character can manifest as so many different types of behaviour.
Yeah.
But the pressure upon people to behave in the same way is where it, I think, stumbles. Would you agree with that?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And I think if there is also a community that has maybe specific ways of looking, so there's something like, a an Orthodox Sikh, a male Sikh, has a very specific kind of distinct look.
Yeah.
And so it makes it more. There's a higher expectation for people to believe that kind of individual would have to conform to a specific set of beliefs or behaviours and things like that.
But I mean, having a look at your Take Me Out clips, you didn't actually do anything that was contrary to Sikhism. I thought, I mean, you show that you have a good family life. It's not that you were on the show drinking or eating meat, which I think, a lot of people who do have turbans and have beards do drink and do eat meat.
That's right,
But on the show you weren't doing any of that. So it just made me...
I was going to say, maybe it was the fact that there weren't enough Sikh ladies amongst the lineup, which is the issue.
It could be. That's a possibility. It's a good point. I mean, I think... I was on one of the other radio stations last year, and a lady rang in to say, "But I'm so disappointed. I can't believe that you didn't play you didn't come out to any Bhangra songs, or you didn't do a Bhangra dance."
That's so stereotypical, though. Why should you? Just because you're Sikh?
And she was this lady was genuinely annoyed at the fact that I hadn't done this.
That's terrible.
I know. And I was thinking, well, surely, there's probably not going to be definitely not going to be another Sikh person on Take Me Out for a while, considering but Charlie hunter sari dar gaye ne.
Oh no.
Who knows, after today's broadcast, maybe we get that boundary pushed a bit further as well.
That would be great. That would be a reasonable expectation, I think.
We've just had a text message from Jag from Ilford. He said, the community only supports you after you've done the hard work. They don't want to know you or support you. It's for their own publicity.
Right.
So that's an interesting comment.
Yeah, it's an interesting comment.
That's a wonderful observation. Thank you for that, Jag.
No, definitely,
I was just going to add another point, that there are many people who move from one religion into another religion, and they obviously have to work on getting rid of all of their old habits and their old ideas and their old behaviour patterns. And I was in Oxford Street the other day, and a group of Hare Rama Hare Krishna devotees were walking along, and none of them were Indians. And so I was watching, and it struck me that the amount of courage that it takes to abandon all of your old mindset and your old belief systems, and then to move into a completely different faith, it's actually a huge act of courage, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
To be born into a religion and then just carrying on with the momentum of that religion without ever having thought about whether it's right, whether it's reasonable, whether it fits and suits where you yourself are as a human being. I think that's a less courageous route, isn't it? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting observation. I've sort of purposely developed went out there and developed good connections with sort of Sikhs of like different ethnic backgrounds, like the American Sikhs and European Sikhs, and I sort of have taught various things like Feng Shui and other kinds of spiritual subjects at some of the retreats that they run, and their perspectives are. I do agree that it's people, all of us, sort of who are born as a Sikh or Muslim or Hindu or whatever religion we're born into. I think a lot of people don't ask the questions around, is it right for me? And because of the Asian community being, or the Asian culture being one of sort of conformity and sort of having to live up to your expectations of your parents and your community, it becomes very hard maybe potentially for people unless they have an environment, unless their family is particularly open-minded and encouraging them to explore their own value systems or their own belief systems. I think it becomes quite difficult for people of Asian background, regardless of the religion they are, to be able to do that.